Pats Nation, when we beat the Buffalo Bills and ultimately lost the first overall pick in the draft, that was down in the dumps. But I did not think that an hour later I would be sky high thinking that the trajectory of the New England Patriots was about to change forever. If you would have told me headed into that Bills game that an hour, 2 hours later, I was going to hear that Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel want to coach for the Patriots, well, I would have told you that you were absolutely crazy. What is going on, Pats Nation? It's your boy Colby, also known as Patriots Global. I appreciate you guys for clicking on today's video to hear me talk about some of the latest New England Patriots news. Make sure on your way in, you guys leave a big like and subscribe to the channel for all of your New England Patriots news. If you haven't already, why not? You're already here. Join the Patriots Global family. But we had breaking news come out earlier today from Tom Pelissero from NFL Network that the New England Patriots have requested from the Detroit Lions to interview their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson. Now, Ben Johnson has been very, very picky about the teams that he has been willing to give interviews to. The Detroit Lions, they're not the ones here preventing Ben Johnson to go out over the last couple years and interview with these teams that are interested in him. He's just wildly and absurdly picky about the team that he ultimately decides to go to. Apparently, also according to Tom Pelissero, he has an interview lined up with the Chicago Bears for their head coaching vacancy, and it's going to come down to those two teams. It's expected that the only two teams that he will accept an interview for is the New England Patriots and the Chicago Bears. And first and foremost, I think that says a lot about the New England Patriots, that the hottest head coach candidate over the last few years, who again is as picky as he is, wants to play for the Patriots. A lot of people saying nobody wants to play for the Patriots. The Patriots are going to suck for the next 10, 20 years. Patriots fans saying nobody wants to come here. Nobody wants to coach here. Hell, I didn't even think that Ben Johnson would be interested in coming here. But if you look at it, it makes a lot of sense why he would. Number one, and we'll get into his coaching resume, but number one, he used to teach at Boston College. So familiar with the area, maybe a little bit of a coming home atmosphere for Ben Johnson. Honestly, I think if it's up to him, if he's offered the job from the New England Patriots or the Chicago Bears, he will definitely pick the New England Patriots over the Chicago Bears. Are you kidding me? Again, used to teach at Boston College, familiar with the area, but not just that. The New England Patriots have a top 5 pick. They might not have the first overall pick, but they do have the 4th overall pick and a lot of possibilities. They already have 5 picks within the top 120 and can still trade down and get extra picks added to that. On top of that, they already have Drake May, who's year 1 into his rookie season. He's only 22, has multiple years still left on that deal, and the Patriots have $130 million to spend in cap space, which leads the entire NFL. Now, the big thing about this interview is that it's going to happen on Zoom. This is a new rule by the league that, teams who are looking for their next head coach, they can interview those guys during the playoffs, during the Super Bowl process. They don't have to wait till after anymore, but it has to be virtual. It has to be on Zoom. It cannot be in person until after the Super Bowl and the playoffs have concluded. So it's expected that the Patriots will interview Ben Johnson later this week in just a few days on the Detroit Lions bye week as they prepare to play in the wild card. And then, of course, later this week, he will also interview for the Chicago Bears. I do not expect that either of those teams or even Ben Johnson will make a decision by the end of this week. I think it's going to take a little bit more time, and it wouldn't surprise me if both the Bears and the Patriots would have a level of interest in bringing Ben Johnson in for a second interview, but an in-person interview. And this was actually a video that I was going to make a few days ago because it came out from Jeremy Fowler before the Bills game, before Mayo was fired, before we knew there was even a possibility that he could be fired, that Ben Johnson could have his eyes set on the New England Patriots if they move on from Gerard Mayo. Now that they did, the report makes a ton of sense. And I think the biggest question for Patriots fans is, well, okay, we just had Gerard Mayo. He didn't have a lot of experience. It gives me a little bit of PTSD. And I think that's why a lot of Patriots fans, they want Mike Vrabel, because they want a guy who's done it before, who's been down this road, who is already at least proven to a certain level. So is Ben Johnson a guy that's going to come in and be like Gerard Mayo, who just simply was not ready for it? Or is he going to come in with experience and get the ground running? And I can confidently say that Ben Johnson, although he might not be as experienced as Mike Vrabel, is by far more experienced than Gerard Mayo. Let's go through his coaching career. So from 2009 to 2010, he worked at Boston College as a graduate assistant. In 2011, he was Boston College's tight ends coach. In 2012, he was the Miami Dolphins offensive assistant. From 2013 to 2015, he was the Miami Dolphins assistant quarterbacks coach / tight ends coach. From 2016 to 2017, he was the Miami Dolphins assistant wide receivers coach. In 2017, he was just straight up the Miami Dolphins wide receivers coach. Now in 2019, that's when he started his career with the Detroit Lions, coming in and being their offensive quality controls coach. Then from 2020 to 2021, he was the Detroit Lions tight ends coach. And then from 2022 to currently, he's been the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator. So a ton of experience up and down the offense. Has never worked with the defense, but that's what a lot of Patriots fans, I think, like about Ben Johnson, is that for the last 20, 25 years, it's been a defensive mind after defensive mind after defensive mind. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But I think the Patriots and Patriots fans, they want something that's a little bit new. The league has switched to being this big, premier, offensive-minded league. It's an offensive league first. I mean, you look at some of the best head coaches, some of the best teams, they're led by head coaches that are offensive-minded, especially when just last year, your biggest investment was Drake May, a quarterback that you selected third overall. Having an offensive-minded guy that used to work as a quarterback's coach, that worked in multiple different positions offensively, could really help the development of not just the biggest asset you've had in years, but also help some of your other positions, help getting the pass game coordination going down, help the tight ends develop a little bit more. And to be completely honest, no matter what route the Patriots take, whether it's Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel, somebody else, I'm just hype at the fact that, again, as picky as Ben Johnson is, I know I've been saying this, but as picky as he is, he decided to pick the New England Patriots as one of the very, very few teams that he actually has interest in joining. My biggest concern with Ben Johnson really just comes in with the unknown. We have seen that positional coaches, offensively, defensively, coordinators, they can be great at doing that, but then they can totally crap the bag at being a head coach. Gerard Mayo, I mean, he was a great linebackers coach, even had to say on defense at times, was not a good head coach, was not ready to take over an entire team. Josh McDaniels, when he was the offensive coordinator for the Patriots year in and year out, was one of the best at doing so, was one of the best game planners, offensive scheming things up on a week-to-week basis. Not many could do it the way that Josh McDaniels was able to. 2 different times he went to be a head coach, completely crapped the bag. It doesn't matter what you can do on offense, what you can do on defense, what your repertoire is offensively or defensively. The things you have to do as a head coach are things that you've never had to do offensively, things that you've never had to do defensively. You have to oversee the entire team. You have to make roster moves. You have to figure out what your identity is going to be. And then you have to implement that identity even when you're winning, when you're losing. Not to mention the fact that when you start losing, things go south, you face adversity. How are you going to get your team back together? How are you going to get them to fight for each other? That's something that we've never seen from Ben Johnson. Now, granted, Ben Johnson has never been given that opportunity to. The offensive coordinator, the quarterback's coach, an offensive quality control coach is never going to be asked to do these things. Dan Campbell was the one that was always asked to do these things. But I think that's going to be the biggest question for him. These things that we've never once seen from him, but we've seen from Mike Vrabel. One thing I will tell Patriots fans, though, is that you should not care if the Patriots go out and get a head coach that is offensively minded or defensively minded. I know that everybody wants this offensive-minded coach because the offense is what has been struggling. But the truth of the fact is that you need a well-rounded team to succeed. The Patriots can have the number 1 offense in the NFL, but if they continue to have one of the worst defenses in the NFL, it is simply not going to matter. They're not going to be a good enough team, and they're not going to go out there and be a true contender. You need to be able to be good and dominate in all 3 phases offensively, defensively, and special teams if you are going to be one of the top tier premier teams in the NFL. I mean, I have absolute zero doubt in my mind that if Ben Johnson was the next head coach of the New England Patriots, that he would turn this offense around completely. I mean, you look at what he was able to do with the Detroit Lions. They currently lead the NFL in points scored per game with 33.2. The New England Patriots, on the other side of things, that offense is struggling bad. They are 30th in that category, averaging only 17 points per game. I mean, Ben Johnson's ability to scheme things up offensively on a week-to-week basis, create an offense any given week, the ability to adapt offensively in the middle of a game, his ability to come up with trick plays, it would be so inventive and something we have not seen offensively here in New England, maybe even since 2016. I think that's probably the last time we saw a premier offense from the New England Patriots, 2016, 2017. Not just that, but I'm also wondering what connections is Ben Johnson going to have? I'm not telling you he doesn't have any connections. He clearly does, but I think that's going to be another part of the interview is who are you bringing in? Who is your staff? If I hire you, who's your OC? Who's your DC? What positional coaches are you bringing in? And I think that is where the real competition is going to start between Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel. Because we'll see who else the Patriots decide to interview, but I am a firm believer that it's going to come down to these two guys. It's going to come down to either Mike Vrabel or Ben Johnson to be the New England Patriots head coach. And one of those guys, depending on what they do in the interview, is going to run away with it. But Patriots fans, this is where I kick it to you. What do you think about the team interviewing Detroit Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson for their head coach vacancy? Honestly, for me, I could see the negative and the positive for both Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel, on one hand, he's proven, but he's proven, right? You know what you're expecting from him. As for with Ben Johnson, you don't know what you're getting, and that is scary. He could be Gerard Mayo. He could end up being a top 3 coach in the NFL. So I definitely see both the positive and the negative for both sides of these coach, and they are on really complete different sides of the spectrum. So it is going to be very interesting to see what route Robert Kraft ends up deciding to take. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Remember to leave a big like on this video and subscribe to the channel for all of your New England Patriots news. I appreciate you guys so much for watching. And of course, never forget, go Pats.